Despite political upheaval, the Kingdom of Hawaii is on the verge of collapse in the historical series, Chief of War, which airs on Apple TV+. The Splintered Paddle, the sixth episode, begins after Keoua's ferocious assault on Kamehameha's food supply. The chief, however, refuses to back down and promotes peace over full-scale conflict. Therefore, on the advice of Kamehameha, he permits Kupuohi to make contact with the King of Hawaii in order to try to resolve the conflict between the two cousins. However, Kamehameha, who is keen to instruct his soldiers in the use of the paleskins' weapons, continues to oppose this tactic. As the Maui men in Oahu show their unwillingness to serve under their king's ruthless desires, questions start to seep into Kahekili's ranks. But a potential new partnership promises to alter the course of events, for better or worse. Beware of spoilers. Following the failed diplomatic mission, Kupuohi feels compelled to blame her husband for part of the failure. After all, he has become extremely excited about the possibility of conflict ever since he returned from the outside world, practically choosing it over a peaceful solution. Unbeknownst to her, Kamehameha's fears of the paleskins, who have cruelly led the era of slavery, exploitation, and colonization on other ports, are a contributing factor in his desire for conflict. Both Moku and Kamehameha then counsel Kamehameha to prepare himself for war against his cousin at the Kohala District Council. But the boss has other ideas. Peace has always been a priority for Kamehameha. He so understands how his kingdom has come to value bloodshed and conflict above all else. He tells his council members about an incident in which he was attacked at a separate port community during a late-night meeting. He did not, however, denounce the villagers' responses. He realized they had just learned to anticipate being pillaged and robbed by their kingdom's chiefs and kings. Kamehameha thus proclaims a new law, which he names the Law of the Splintered Paddle, in light of that experience. He declares that going forward, no one in Hawaii will murder another person unless it is necessary to protect their own life. Anyone who disobeys this law faces the death penalty as a punishment. As a result, it's becoming clear that his and Kamehameha's ideologies will eventually split. Keoua is concerned about the impending war against his cousin, despite the fact that he readily rejects Kupuohi's offer of peace. He learns from the encounter that Kamehameha now possesses the pale-skin weaponry that once came dangerously close to destroying the Kingdom of Hawaii. The fact that he no longer has the god of war in his arsenal only serves to confirm that his dominion will eventually fall. He thus turns to unfavorable means on the counsel of his prophetess. Keoua has previously stated that he is unconcerned about destroying his father's kingdom in order to construct his own from the ground up. Therefore, having exhausted all other options, he chooses to shake hands with his enemy's adversary. Keoua goes to Oahu to make Kahekili an offer. The latter king's goal is to eradicate the island's kingdom's royal lineage and create his own exclusive authority as the great king. Even his own people had started to question his rule because his ambition had grown to such a scary height. Nevertheless, Keoua offers his father's competitor a hand of friendship. He requests that Kahekili's men support Keoua's opposition to Kamehameha. He agrees to permanently avoid getting involved with his business in return. The monarch of Maui recognizes the potential for what it is. Hawaii would be simpler to conquer if he lets the two cousins weaken one another in an inbred battle. He so assigns Apanui, his most vicious fighter, to spearhead the attack on Kamehameha. However, as these kingdom conflicts come to a conclusion, the islands face a greater danger as a ship carrying even less hospitable paleskins approaches the Hawaii coastline. When Kamehameha and his council find the remains of their burned-out food storage, things unavoidably take a tense turn. Others are hesitant to draw conclusions, but Kamehameha is certain that Keoua is responsible for the assault. However, his wife Kupuohi proposes an alternative plan in which he calls for war. She thinks she may persuade Keoua to stop his vindictive streak against Kamehameha and his area because she is the future king's cousin and a former cow chiefess. Kamehameha gives her own vote of confidence even though her husband doesn't agree with her proposal. She thinks that if the districts can live in peace with one another, Hawaii will be able to present a more united face to its foes. The chief is forced to let Kupuohi carry out her task as a result. As a result, Kupuohi and Kamehameha go to the cow district's boundaries, where Keoua performs for them. However, He insists that Kamehameha can only leave the fight by giving up the worshipped god of fight when his cousin attempts to bring up the topic of peace. The war-obsessed king doesn't change his mind, even when she tries to make it clear that Kahekili poses a real threat. He and Kamehameha inevitably clash as the king berates the latter for embracing some aspects of the pale-skin culture, such as their language, weapons, and attire. As a result, Keoua ultimately rejects the idea of a truce between the two districts, leaving Hawaii exposed for days to come. Thanks for watching. For more updates stay tuned and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel please.